choices. Advances in medical science now allow researchers to pinpoint all kinds of genetic defects. And that's where the choices come in, not just for parents, but for society itself. With a documentary report called Measuring Up, here's senior correspondent Allison Smith.
Adele Warner has been taking piano lessons since she was a little girl. She's always loved music. Now, Adele is 24.
Broken F chord.
I feel like the things I do, they're all really important to me. I dreamed about some things that I like to be, like a singer or an actress or a soap opera actress or something like that.
At home in Glace Bay, Nova Scotia, Adele is at the heart of the Warners' family life for her parents, Gary and Linda, and their extended family. Adele's genetic makeup is noticeably different. Instead of 2 copies of each chromosome, one from each parent, Adele has 3 copies of chromosome 21. That's the genetic marker of Down syndrome.
Well, when we learned that Adele was born with Downs, it was like we had a grieving period to go through. We grieved the loss of the perfect child that we had anticipated. The first year was very difficult. It was like a grieving process for the first year. Your first Christmas, your first Easter, your first birthday, first time I took her to church. You know, I stood like this with her in my arms, cried through the whole thing. But that was only the first time.
Yes.
And then it was, after that, it was a little easier, a little easier. Yeah. It's not a perfect world. No. You know, you just can't throw away what you don't want, or what doesn't please you, or what you don't like. You kind of have to play the hand you're dealt.
Genetic testing isn't all new. A test for Down syndrome has been around for almost 40 years, presenting parents with a choice: to knowingly have a child with Downs or to terminate the pregnancy. The more we learn about our genetic makeup, the human genome, the more choices will confront us. Some scientists say that within 10 years, some 10,000 genetic diseases and conditions will be identified. How are we going to use that knowledge in a world where some notion of perfection is within our grasp and under our control? Gregor Wolbring is a scientist at the University of Calgary. His research is about the effects of thalidomide, a drug that's now used for skin diseases and cancers, for example. A biochemist by training, he's also the founder of the International Network on Bioethics and Disability.
Disability is a social justice concept, the same as sexism, like ableism, sexism, racism, right? And so I wouldn't even use like impairment. People would say I'm walking impaired, right? And of course I'd say I just have a different mode of walking.
Wolbring was born with no legs because his mother took thalidomide during her pregnancy. His is not a genetic disorder. But he knows too well what it is to live in a society that scorns differences, genetic or otherwise. He challenges any conventional notion of what normal is. What's normal in your view?
Normal is the lack of variation.
What does that mean?
There is no such thing. Normal is set up by a certain amount of people who have the power to decide, to define norms. And that means they limit the variation because they decide this is what you have to adhere to, which means if you have to become a normative person, you have the opposite of the diversity because you have to adhere to that norm.
So did you ever see yourself as any different than any of your classmates?
Of course I'm different, but so you are. Mm-hmm. I mean, everyone has a different biological reality.
But different biological and genetic realities can also mean disease, pain and suffering, and severe stress on families. Chris and Katrina Howell have a new baby boy. He was the New Year's baby in Coburg, Ontario.
Dear. Oh, dear.
Joshua is a perfect baby for the Howells. But if one gene had been different, Joshua wouldn't have been born at all.
When I did get pregnant with this one, it was sort of, okay, exciting at first, you know, for a day, and then it's like, no, slow down here. It doesn't mean I'm having a baby. It just means I'm pregnant right now. I got to really think of the situation here.
The Howells made an appointment for an abortion. Whether or not they'd go ahead with it would hinge on the results of a prenatal genetic test for cystic fibrosis.
In 11 weeks, I got the testing because they can't do it any earlier than 11 weeks. And I was going to terminate the pregnancy at 12 weeks if I had to. So I had the testing done 11 weeks, found out on the Monday that everything was okay, and I canceled the surgery on the Wednesday.
Dakota is the Howells' first child. He was born 6 years ago with cystic fibrosis, a rare disease, but the most common fatal genetic disease. Both his parents carry a cystic fibrosis genetic mutation. The odds are 1 in 4 that their children will have CF.
With Dakota, it was, he had to put Vaseline around his mouth. He had to mix up enzymes, powdered enzymes with applesauce. You had to feed it to him. Newborn baby, feed it to him. He'd be spitting it out, put it back, crying at the same time. At 2.5, he started knowing what enzymes were. He started wanting to spit them out. And that's where it got hard in the relationship, because Chris would have to hold him down, like with his leg and his arm, so powerful. I would get the scoop it in his mouth. He would spit it out. We'd pick it up off the floor, put it back in his mouth.
My cough is coming.
Dakota's life depends on daily therapy. He will always need to have help breathing. He must take enzymes before each meal to help him digest his food. He's prone to respiratory illness, and his life expectancy is much lower than average.